most, driving is just a mundane task between point A and point B. Nothing more. It's the frustration of traffic at 8 a.m. The feeling of sickness on a long ride. The car? Just a tool. It's supposed to be practical, reliable, and fast. But the speed is really the reason cars exist, born out of a necessity to make that A to B trip just a little bit faster. Some have a deeper connection with cars, found somewhere in the bond of man and machine, a desire to be part of something bigger than yourself. It's the extension of mind and body to something more exciting than just another appliance. And these people never cared about practicality or reliability. To them, the only thing that matters is speed. We're born with a competitive nature, part of a biological necessity that is not yet worn off with time. People have raced for thousands of years, and that competition has transcended history and found its way to the industrial age. Railroads raced to build across the country, replacing the horses whose strength is still used as a benchmark for power today. And as personal vehicles became popular, the railroads died off. What once was the quickest way across the country became snail's pace in comparison. The interstate highway system expanded and cars populated every driveway. And the competition between types of transport quickly transitioned into the race to have the fastest car. Bragging rights. Manufacturers like Porsche, Ferrari, and BMW emerged in auto racing, each trying to one-up the other. Building engines became an arms race. Who could build the fastest dinosaur-powered Landslip? So while the passion for cars has died for most, there are still people that are fascinated by racing. The sights, the sounds, the smell of burning rubber and spent race fuel lingering in the air, this is what attracts us to the sport of auto racing. We are empowered by drivers that climb in impossibly fast cars and put everything on the line for the sake of competition. Drivers who know that one slip-up can lead to disaster. And for the longest time, wishing to be a race car driver was just a childhood dream. All we could ever be was a spectator. Opportunities? Limited and expensive. Reserved only for the who's who of the racing world. Until now.
Makes a mistake again. He missed a shift. He's going to spin to the inside turn. He's going to take the lead.
Eli Hinton just got used up there in the hairpin.
He's going to pick up a win after a long winless streak and visit victory lane. And the whole field just needs to get himself slowed down, hop these curves, up and over. There's that cannon running a 10. Great restart here for the 2 car, but also for the 48. He crosses him over. Down into turn 1. There goes the tail. Here comes the 20 alongside. The 13 car gets turned. He's going to spin in turn 2.
The end of every great NASCAR season comes to finish at Homestead-Miami Speedway. But tonight, for the first time on SimTV, it's going to come to an end under the cloak of darkness. Welcome to SimTV's broadcast of the season finale of the 2019 HostVenom Cup Series, brought to you by Kyle Heyer, Finney Nakuna, and a special guest, Gary Weaver from the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. Guys, after 18 races this season, we come to the 1.5-mile Homestead-Miami Speedway. We thought we knew this place in the daytime, but now in the darkness, the track cools down, the intensity comes up, sparks are going to fly, tempers flare, and with 4 drivers, we have one final race to just go all out to the end, and whoever finishes highest will go home with the championship trophy. Finian, You've been here the longest. I missed the first couple races of the season, but you broadcasted them, and one of the drivers that competed very well at Daytona is in the championship tonight. The 27 of Anthony Debaro. Is he your pick tonight? And if not, who is?
Well, last week I said my pick was Jeff Ford, and considering the man just is currently holding provisional pole with a little less than a minute remaining in qualifying, I think I'm going to continue to keep him as my pick. He actually has gone quite significantly faster than second place Nick Cohen, who's actually back this week. But yeah, it's between Ward, George, Debaro, and Bressi are your championship four competing tonight. Highest finisher wins. There's no bonus points, none of that. It's gonna probably come down to effectively winners takes all here under the cloak of darkness.
And Anthony Debaro in the 27 only laid down a 35-second lap time finish. He's gonna start at the tail of the field here, Gary. Homestead-Miami Speedway, like I said, we thought we knew what this place drove like, but in the darkness, that's going to change a lot of things. What are we expecting to see tonight? Are we going to see more pack racing, or is it going to be much like we've seen before, but just a little bit faster?
That's going to be interesting to figure out what exactly is going to happen. It may be a combination of both, but especially for restarts, it's definitely going to be pack racing. But once if we get long green flag runs, that's definitely going to start to sort itself out to single file racing.
145 laps here tonight at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Again, Finian, we've seen the intermediate racing kind of be all over the place this year, from the Charlotte to Las Vegas to places like Fontana and Michigan. Those racetracks are a little bit bigger, but we've seen a large variety of different kinds of races. But this is really the first true 1.5 mile oval we've been to this year. Variable banking, the high sides in the past has been the place to be. Do you think this new package changes the line?
I definitely think this package changes the line. How much, I kind of have to watch. I haven't really seen a race with this new package yet at Homestead. I think we're definitely going to see a lot more guys opt for that lower line. The high line might come into play or not. It really just kind of depends on how these lines develop as the run goes on.
Let's take a look at our track conditions here tonight. 89 in the air, 89 on the track. Gary, that's relatively cool. And wind 2 miles an hour out of the north. Clear skies. But Gary, again, there's some unknowns heading into tonight. But if you're Thomas Bressi, you have not won a race yet this season. You're going against guys that have. Is this a must-win situation for that 24? Or do you think he could probably get it done with just a solid top 5 tonight?
Well, so far, he just has to hope that he finishes at least in front of the other 3 competitors, especially George and Ward, but they're 4th and 1st, respectively, so he's going to have to hope, at least for now, for the first half of the race, just worry about getting adjusted to the track, having it cool down as well, possibly throughout the night, and hopefully he'll be there by the end of the night in the first place position in the championship.
All right, well, you mentioned it's 145 laps. If this race goes green to the end, it'll be about an hour and 15 minutes, and we're starting at 9 o'clock on the Eastern Coast, so that means that will be, well, it's 9:10, so it'll be roughly about 10:25 when we'll complete this race if it goes green to the end. Finian, do you think we're going to go green to the end? We saw last week at ISM Raceway some short yellows, here and there, but for the most part, we saw a lot of green flag racing. Do you think we're going to see a lot of that tonight, or maybe a bit of a wreck fest here?
I don't think it's going to be a wreck fest. I think we're going to get a few cars in here and there. The fairly long race, 145 laps. So I definitely think the odds of having a caution are definitely up there considering just the race length. I don't think it's going to be a wreck fest just due to how this track usually races. But again, we'll kind of have to see and see how these guys get sorted out, especially because this is going to be fairly new for all of these drivers racing here with this package. Here's
your starting lineup for the night. On the front row, it's going to be Jeff Ward, one of those championship contenders in that 89 Chevrolet Camaro, alongside Nick Cohen, returning here after the last couple weeks being absent, and the number 21 Toyota Camry. Starting in row number 2, Tyler Hensley, the 44, and one of the other championship contenders, Thomas George, the number 9. Hasn't been super fast in recent weeks, but he might be tonight. In row number 3, Timothy Johnson in the 28, Brian Yazik making his return in the number 55 Ford Mustang this time around. And then moving on back to 7th and 8th, it's going to be John Rodden and Thomas Bressi, our other championship contender. We have one more buried deep in the field as we let the rest of that scroll along the bottom of your screen. But up in the front, it's the 89 of Jeff Ford on the pole in that number 89 machine, and the 21 of Nick Cohen on the outside lane. Thomas George right behind the 21. 145 laps to seal out this season. We started many months ago at Daytona, and it's all going to come down to this. The highest finishing driver of the 4 championship contenders tonight is going to take home the trophy. At Homestead-Miami Speedway on Sim TV for the Fuel HostVenom Cup Series, green flag flies racing at Homestead.
Oh, and Nick Cohen gets a fantastic start in the outside lane, as well as Thomas George. George and Ward now fighting it out for second place.
Yeah, the 21 got a great launch off into the corner. He's actually going to take the lead away from the 89, but you see back John Rodden. He's going to be middle 3 wide out of turn 2. There's Pelletier on the bottom, and that's the 0-1 of Justin Rodden on the outside lane.
You can already see these guys forming a pack. As you see Thomas George now, he's in the middle 3 wide. Yazik all the way up to the top side 3 wide.
I'm surprised all these guys are doing a great job of keeping it together for the time being. And, well, just like that, Nick Cohan leads the first lap, but everyone else is just behind, about 4th on back, still side by side, occasionally 3 wide. But I see a couple drivers using the very top side.
One of the drivers we'll be following all night long is that 27 of Anthony Debaro. He's sitting in behind Yazik, and I think that's the 38 machine, or 32 rather, of Mike Hurley on the outside, and that is the 38 of Brian Greenlee, middle 3 wide, so that's the 27. Remember, he started all the way back in 18th place. He's up to 12th right now. He's on the move. He's coming to the front. On the high lane there, I think that's the 24 of Thomas Bressi. Started a bit farther back in 8th. He's up to 5th already. He's going forward here pretty early. Finian, he hasn't won a race this year. Do you think that leaves him at a disadvantage that he hasn't been to victory lane this season, or do you think it's not really going to matter by the end of this thing?
Yeah, I really don't think it's going to matter. I mean, really, with this system, you only have to really win, if anything, 1 race. You technically don't even have to do that, as long as he just beats the other drivers. So I definitely think he's got a chance, especially considering his pace so far as he's climbing up through the field, not going backwards. I think George and Ward should really be worried.
And the 44, Tyler Hensley, is the 24's teammate. Maybe Hensley can play some strategy, maybe throw somebody off if we get a late race restart. I don't think we're running green-white checkers, Finian, to end out this season, so just classic NASCAR finishes. But the 21 of Cohen has launched out to an early lead here. Travis McQuistion, the 93, he's side-by-side with Eckrich, who is racing on a broken foot. That is certainly spectacular to see. Of course, Eckrich, had he raced last week, he would have made it to this round, but I think Scott really just looking to have fun tonight.
Yeah, indeed. It's really unfortunate that he was out due to some of those circumstances, but yeah, nice to see him still out there and running some laps with these guys. And Debaro, also, we should bring up, he's all the way up into 10th place, so he's finally broken inside the top 10 in only 5 laps.
Oh, contact, the 38 of Greenlee spinning in turn 3. Does he save it? He's still sideways. Eckrich avoids him down to the apron. He goes, and he will save it. Greenlee avoided disaster there, getting hooked into turn 3.
That was a great save by Brian Greenlee. Not exactly sure. Yeah, just a little bit of a tag, unfortunately, from Greg Evans, but both drivers with an amazing save, especially from that number 38. Somehow kept it off and still kept it going forward.
Yeah, just 2 cars going for the same spot of racetrack there. Greg Evans getting into the rear quarter panel of the 38. Of course, Greg Evans eliminated at Martinsville, where he won. So it's been a disappointing end of the season for the defending championship winner. He will not be able to defend his title this year. Debaro, as you said, finishing up to 10th. Now he's in 9th. He just got by Justin Rodden in the outside lane, going forward very quickly. Working lap number 7 of 145. Finian pit stops here. Homestead, pretty tricky racetrack because I believe you have to use those access roads, which can be very challenging for drivers under green to make it down there without slipping out wide. So I think green flag pit stops might be something that drivers are trying to keep on their minds not to screw up tonight, because that can take you out of a championship pretty easily.
Yeah, especially overshooting that entry, very easy to do, and even on exit too, it's very easy to do. So you want to keep sure you're in the lines, but also going as fast as possible to make sure you don't lose any ground.
Jeff Ward is trying to stay tucked up with the 21 and Nick Cohan. We're seeing the line a lot lower than we typically do here, Finian. A lot of times we see guys go up to the top of the racetrack. Maybe we'll see that later, but right now everyone's kind of on the bottom to the middle. I think that's where the speed is, at least early in the run.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that advantageous, at least yet, to start running that outside lane, everyone taking the shortest way around.
Ryan Yazik in the 55 Ford Mustang, the highest running Ford at the moment, in 4th place, and he just kind of picked up where he left off. Has missed a bunch of races later in the season, but back tonight, started 6th up to 4th, but here comes Bressi on the outside lane trying to take that spot away, so the 24 is climbing up the order, but right now, if the race were to end where it is, the 89 car would be your winner, so we still have a long way to go, about 136 laps worth, but that 24 car moving forward, as is the 27, but he's gotten repassed by the 01 of Rodden.
Yeah, those two have been side by side for quite a while. Yeah, sorry, Finian, but those two have been side by side for about 5 laps at this point. I've just been watching them. Neither can get an edge over each other, at least definitively. But with just that 33 of John Rodden falling back just a little bit, that's going to play a little bit into effect for these two drivers battling side by side. They may even go 3 wide, but figure out how that plays out here.
Yeah, we're going to watch this on the back straightaway. The 27's got a bit of a run, but the outside lane in the past has been where the speed is because you carry just so much more momentum. There's more banking up at the top of the racetrack, and that's what Rodney's using right here. You mentioned 3 wide, Gary. Here they go. The 33 getting split. Oh. He's going to pull in front of the 0-1 out of turn 4. Now it got really tight there for a moment. This is certainly going to help Debaro.
Yeah, Debaro's still trying to get around. I'm actually surprised he had this much trouble with both these drivers. I thought he would have just blown by. And speaking of which, there he is. He's just going to gas in the middle of the corner. He's going to clear the 33 and move himself up into 8th place.
How about Greg Evans in the 46? He started 17th. He's up 5 spots into 12th place. A new paint scheme on board this car this week. And to the inside of Pelletier going for 11th. Let's jump back up to the lead for a moment, though, because 2nd place is being challenged by none other than Thomas George in the 9. He's been victorious this season. Finian, do you think he can do it again tonight?
Oh, I definitely think he can. He's been fairly fast for most season. Not necessarily dominant, but he's definitely been up in the conversation. And so far, so good. Again, just doing what he needs to do, just keeping up with the fight, keeping Ward especially in check. I think definitely Ward, one of the fastest guys out of this group other than Debaro. And again, Debaro still recovering from his mishap in qualifying. Hit the wall on his 2nd lap, invalidated a 2nd time. So that put him way back in the order.
Greg Evans sliding up in front of Pelletier. He'll take that spot away, move himself up into 11th place. And right behind there's Derek Paulson, another returning driver in the 0-5. He's been gone for quite some time. Started 15th up to 13th place. And for the lead again, I'm watching that gap. It's been stabilized around a 10th to 2/10, but it looks like it's been very difficult to pass Gary. So maybe later in the run this will get easier, or do you expect it to kind of stay the same difficulty the whole way through?
Yeah, it might be the same difficulty. I'm surprised Nick Cohan is actually using the same tactic that I saw him use in the IndyCar series at ISM, breaking the draft, going down the back straightaway, and moving back up the racetrack. So will he do it again on the front straight? Yeah, he's doing that as well. So I've never seen that done in a Cup car, only IndyCar. So I'm very interested that Nick Cohen is using the same strategy. So this could help him out. But at the moment, now that gap closed up just a little bit to about 2 car lengths, maybe 3 car lengths. But for the time being, it's fluctuating for sure.
Yeah, we've seen drivers kind of make that move at larger tracks like Fontana or Michigan, but not at a 1.5-mile track. Meanwhile, battle for 4th going on. It's Brian Yazek and Thomas Bressi. Bressi goes to the inside lane trying to work his way up to 4th, and he's got teammate Tyler Hensley to his outside. Whoop, the 24 slid up right in front of him. Actually, is Hensley in a Toyota Camry this week? Or no, Hensley, that's Johnson. Sorry. I was looking at the timing screen and looked like it was Hensley, but in fact, it was a 28 of Johnson, who he was eliminated back at Rockingham one of the first couple rounds of the season. Nothing of his doing. Got caught up in someone else's mess, and that's what eliminated the 28, who was one of our championship leaders earlier in the season.
Yeah, Johnson had a very good first part of the season, but yeah, just got eliminated early on due to happen circumstance, but still showing that he's a fast car as he's trying to throw his wrench into this mix. And George dropped back, and here comes Yazek charging on the outside.
Yeah, Yazek is really, really quick. I don't think that's any mystery. He was really competitive at the beginning of the season, kind of dropped off the face of the earth for a little while, but returns here for the final race of the season. This is so much like 2018 Finian at Las Vegas, when we had a bunch of drivers that missed out a lot of the season come back for Vegas. It was one of our best races of the season, and so far this race is shaping out to be just like that. 16 laps under green flag conditions, the lead only 0.2 of a second. Big battle for 3rd going on right now between Yazek and George.
I'm surprised at 24. He was looking in the middle there and the entry to turns 1 and 2 the last time by. He definitely wants to make it 3 wide. I'm pretty sure he's tempted, but right there, he's just riding on top of that back bumper, the 55 of Yazek. So not really anything he can do. He's got the 9 of George directly under him now as Yazek powers off the corner. So Bressi, all Bressi can do at this point is just wait it out and hope that gets that inside lane open as he scrapes the wall a little bit on corner entry.
Heard the reports that the 56 got all sorts of sideways a couple laps ago, and Pelletier has slipped all the way back to 17th place. So his day has gone backwards. There's Don Runkle Jr., one of the most popular drivers in the championship battle. Was eliminated at Talladega a few weeks ago with that Mission 22 Camry. Off to a decent start tonight. Hasn't run into anything yet, but meanwhile back up for that battle between 5th. Thomas George has slipped back a few spots, and now it's Timothy Johnson on his outside.
Yeah, you don't have to look too far. That 27 Debaro, he's caught up with this group, so now he's effectively in the championship mix here as he's trying to get around or going to the inside of Thomas George.
We see on the left-hand side of the screen that ticker, that column ticker with the yellow drivers. Those yellow drivers are your fuel finalists in the fuel finale here tonight, and we'll see how many times I can alliterate the letter F. But for the lead fitting, those front two have completely broken away. It's Nick Cohan and Jeff Ward, and they're 1.2 seconds over 3rd place Yazek.
Yeah, those guys playing nice with each other because, I mean, effectively, Ward doesn't have to win the race. He just needs to finish ahead of everyone else that he's competing with. So he's, I think, just happy sticking in behind Cohen at the moment, just striding this out.
And Debaro goes to the inside of Thomas George, and for the first time tonight, he's not last in the fuel finalists on the racetrack. He's moved himself up into third out of those 4 drivers and into 6th on the racetrack.
Yeah, not sure what happened with Thomas George's car, but he just started to fall like a rock. Now back into 7th, was 3rd a few laps ago, so not sure what's going on in the 9, but definitely that car is not handling the way he would like.
Greg Evans slid up right in front of the 44, Tyler Hensley. Let's watch on board his rear bumper cam as he slid up in front of the 44. Not a whole lot of room here. Whoa! About an inch and a half between those 2 cars. And we saw last night in the 3-wide race at Motegi, some drivers won't allow you to slip across their bumper like that. They won't lift, and we saw how that turned out with a multi-car accident. Bressi putting pressure on Yazik for 3rd place now. This 24 is looking racy, but the 27's come all the way back from 18th, so I'll be interested to see if the 24 can trap Debaro behind him.
To use him as a pick, it would be pretty interesting to have to use as a little bit of a strategy. At the moment, I'm sure Bressi wants to get by. Yeah, he's just slow. He's running about half a lane lower than Yazik right now, and he's trying to get the draft, but as well as at least somehow keep to the inside lane just in case they has to move down. But Yazik protects the inside lane, comes right in front of the 24. So that was a very close moment. Bressi decides to make the move right there.
He dove in there. I don't know if he'll be able to make that stick. They're going to carry each other up to the top of the racetrack. Here comes Debaro. He's going to look 3 wide at the exit of turn 2. Is he going to have a big enough run? Not quite. They'll get single file again. But you mentioned the 24 sticking his nose out underneath the 55. That's just to get a little extra downforce on the nose of the car. But on the straightaways, you want that draft. But now looks like Bressi is stuck in the arrow shadow of that 55. And here comes Anthony Debaro, a multi-time winner. He has 3 wins this season and looking very strong heading into the final race of the season from 18th to 5th in 23 laps. And he looks for 4th now on the 24.
Yeah, impressive stuff out of Debaro climbing up to the field as he works to the inside of Bressi. I think Bressy's going to have a hard time trying to shake off the 27 to the inside of him as he's continuing inside and behind Yazik. But yeah, both these guys, they can race it all they want, but I'm sure they're both looking at the 89 slowly driving away from them.
Yeah, and those guys continue to extend their lead. It's now 1.7 seconds between Ward and 3rd place Yazik as the 24 and 27 duke it out side by side. And working, the 24 drove in way high on the outside lane, stuck it in there, and just put the throttle through the firewall. It didn't manage to stick, though, and Debaro's going to take that run to the inside lane. They'll be drag racing down the back straight.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing here, I think definitely the only way you're going to be able to make some passes at this moment is being able to go to the outside. And you can see Bressi trying to get to the outside. There he is looking to the outside, but can't gas it up in time to get alongside the 55.
And here comes Timothy Johnson to stink up this party in the number 28 machine riding behind. Which one do you think he's going to choose here, Finian? Do you go with the Toyota? Do you go with Bressi? Which way is the one you go?
I don't know. Honestly, I would just continue on doing my own thing. Just don't even, just don't bother with them because I think fighting side by side is going to be a losing battle. And just try to go to the outside of Bressi if you can.
So working a little bit past halfway our first fuel run, I would imagine. I'd expect pit stop somewhere around lap 50 to 60, maybe a little bit sooner than that. But right now, and we don't even see with the tire fall off we're seeing almost 2 seconds of fall off this early in the race. I could see us maybe pitting earlier just for that reason. Here comes Greg Evans in the 46, though, to the inside of the 28 and right to the rear bumper of Debaro, who's just clinging to the quarter panel of the 24. Evans started 17th. He's up to 6th, following right in Debaro's footsteps.
Yeah, Evans with a great climb forward as well as Debaro. Both these guys doing a fantastic job, really showing their pace. And they've now found themselves both up inside the front part of the field here, trying to stink up this party. I'm actually kind of curious if Debaro and Evans get clear of Bressi and Yazik, will they be able to drive up to our leaders?
Curious about that as well. Right now, it looks like Cohen and Ward are a full 2/10 quicker than everyone else in the field. They're the only 2 drivers still running in the 32-second bracket. Everyone else is 33 and above. Bressi dives to the inside of Yazik on the exit of 2, and now Debaro moves up to the high side. He's got Greg Evans tucked in behind him. Curious to see how these 2 will play. It's the 2 drivers that are in the fuel finals, the 24, the 27, versus the 2 that were eliminated, the 46 and the 28.
It's shaping up to be a very interesting battle now that Bressi has finally gotten by, and right when that was protecting a position as much as possible. He definitely wants that 3rd place after I'm not surprised. After staying side by side with the 55 for about, what, 20 laps now? Well, not even 20 laps, maybe about 10, 15 laps. That was...
Oh, he pulls up in front of him, throws the block on the 24, and that's just retaliation from the front straightaway there, Finney, and that got pretty dicey.
Yeah, I figured that was going to happen. You see, Bressi, he's definitely not happy with that. After working so hard to get alongside him, he pretty much lost that, and he's back to square one.
Is this too early to be throwing blocks on drivers that, I mean, for Bressi, the 55 is not part of the championship battle. Is it too early to be throwing blocks on him and risking your night, or is it a necessary evil to get up to the 89 and Ward, who's up the road?
I think it's a necessary evil. He's got way too many cars in behind him. If he gets put out of line, he's going to get freight trained by 4 cars. And also for Yazik, too, he's got absolutely nothing to lose. The final race of the season, he's just out there to try to win the thing. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to have any qualms just holding up some guys.
Well, the 27 has gotten stalled behind the 24 as well, so I'm curious to see if they can track down those 2 leaders once they get by the 55, but it's been very clear that Yazik is not willing to pull over for these championship contenders.
Yeah, Yazik is essentially saying, well, even though you guys are the championship, I still have every right to race here. So
absolutely.
Yazik definitely, yeah, he's definitely making the point shown. And, well, he's also saying in a sense, well, if you want to get by me, you have to make your way by me again. So as the 24 and 27 continue to battle side by side, not the first time, I don't believe. Pretty sure Debaro wants to go in behind that 24 down the back straightaway, but that's the case.
Oh, Bressi went all the way to the white line and hit that apron, and up the racetrack he goes out of turn 4, and he scrapes the fence! Big hit for the 24 in the wall out of turn 4. And I think he's got some right side damage, and
a little bit.
It's a little bit.
He's got a little bit.
Yeah, that was a pretty nasty hit there. Thankfully, it was safer barrier, but certainly that's going to let the 27 get on through. And here comes the 46 of Greg Evans, and the 24 just committed to the throttle and did not back out for better or for worse. And is going to lose a spot, maybe 2, and now has some damage to fix on pit lane. And well, don't get you wrong, it will affect you here. This racetrack is very aero dependent, especially the lines that they're running tonight. Now the 46 drifts up out of turn 4. It doesn't end with the same fate though.
And here comes Bressi to the inside of Greg Evans, trying to take that spot back, but again, he's going to have some hard time. He's just lost quite a bit of aero to the right side of that car. As he tries to keep it pulled to the inside, Evans is going to just ike out ahead on top. You see Bressi going up the hill.
Up the hill. Oh, he almost tried to get in front of the 28, and who was there? Timothy Johnson. So Bressi's lost 3 spots in the span of only a couple laps. Meanwhile, Yazik now has Debaro trying to chase him back down as Yazik was able to drive away the last couple laps, and Thomas George has even begun to close back in on Bressi through all of that chaos there. Meanwhile, in the rear of the field here, Justin Rodden and Derek Paulson, they're battling for 13th at the moment as we work lap number 33 of 145.
That's pretty wild, and just like that, it sorted itself out throughout all of that. My goodness, that was interesting for sure, and it looks like the 01 may be getting that 3rd place position, but Paulson has other ideas, so he'll try and fight back on the inside lane for the time being.
Yeah, and actually also, too, Rodden and Eckridge got into each other a few laps ago. So those 2 guys are also not really happy with each other. They're actually both being told to calm down over the radio.
Oh, boy. Well, the spiciness has started here early. The sparks haven't flown quite yet, but the tempers sure have. But meanwhile, out up front, it's looking easy for Cohan and Ward right now. They're working together, not teammates by any stretch of the imagination, but for Jeff Ward, just staying in Cohan's draft and just getting towed away from the field is certainly helping him out. For 3rd place, though, Debaro has caught Yazik. We'll see what the 27 has for that 55 Mustang.
Just about car length separates them for the time being, at least. But right now, I'm pretty sure Debaro is hoping that he's not going to get the same treatment that the 24 got at the same moment, or at least at the moment. Debaro just running right on the back bumper. So at the moment, the same thing that the 24 did. But again, we saw how Yazik was to the 24. So unless the 27 is going to put the bumper to Yazik, I don't believe Debaro. Yo, never mind. Right when I say that, he just about did that during turn 3.
He tried. Meanwhile, Thomas George trying to work over Bressi out of turn number 4. Let's go back to that battle for 3rd now as Debaro's gotten alongside. Just a quick update. The 38 of Brian Greenlee has taken his car to the garage area, and Mike Hurley in the 32 returned to pit road after only 4 laps of competition. As you see, the 27 of Debaro from 18th to 3rd now. He's going to set his sights on the 2 leaders who are now 3 seconds up the road.
Yeah, and I honestly think Debaro's got a good enough car to chase him down when they were kind of separated. Debaro's running faster than the leaders, so now that he's got some clarity to that nose, I'm curious how much can he catch up to 1st and 2nd.
And Greg Evans started 17th, only 1 spot ahead of Debaro. He's moved his way up into 5th, and he's all over Brian Yazik now. As we work lap number 37, closing in on our first pit stop sequence of the night as the sun officially sets. The lights are on here at Homestead. The first time we've seen Homestead under lights here on SimTV, and boy, is it beautiful, guys.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. This also feels right, considering we haven't had this configuration for so long under the night. It's only been under daylight.
And I tell you, Derek Paulson and the 0-1 these guys are just absolutely dogfighting right now. They've been side by side for several laps, and they just can't figure out who wants to be in front.
Yeah, the 05 of
Spin down the front straightaway. Bressi.
Oh, no!
Oh.
And big damage to the left front of that and the right front of that car. And the 24's championship hopes likely erased with that crash. No caution yet, though.
Yeah, it was under the actual racing surface, and he got into the wall off of turn 4 again, so that's going to amount to more damage, and definitely, well, if the first time wasn't enough, this is just insult to injury.
Yeah, here's another look at it. Again, no caution on the racetrack yet, and so Bressi will have to continue. But out of turn 4, he was way up at the top of the racetrack, and does he scrape the wall here? Yes, he does, all on his own, and clips the wall and spins out, and it's going to be a huge hit to that left front fender, and there's no way that car is going to be even remotely competitive for the rest of the night, so that is likely the end of the season for the 24.
Yeah, he's taking the access road right now. I think he's pulling it back into the pit, so yeah, championship hopes, as you're saying, effectively over for the 24. Very unfortunate, but we're down to effectively 3 guys running for the championship now. Ward, Debaro, and Thomas George.
That's a real shame. We thought the 24 might have had something up his sleeve to get a victory and the championship in the final race. It will not be that way tonight. Let's head back up to the top spot, though. Keep you updated on the leader, Nick Cohan and Jeff Ward. They are still leading over Anthony Debaro, but that lead is slowly, very, very slowly, been getting eaten into. The 27 has been quicker by a tenth the last couple laps.
I'm seeing a battle for, well, at least an attempt at a battle for 5th place. Yazik and Johnston, 55 and 28. So Yazik is slowly kind of starting to fall back just a little bit, but he's hovering around the same positions, though. So it's not terribly slow, but unfortunately, it may be the tire fall off that we've talked about earlier.
Yeah, we're talking about fall off, Finney, and I, before you make your point, we're about 2.3 seconds off of the fastest pace that these guys have run. So these guys are going to want tires and Finian probably pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely think they're going to come in, or they're going to aim for around lap 48, 49, and they're going to try to pull a 2-stop strategy. They can stretch the field that far, considering. But yeah, Yazik looks like he's going to be, I think he's definitely going to be able to hold on to 5th, if anything 6th, as he continues to fight with Johnson. But yeah, Evans and Debaro breaking away. And I'm also curious, we haven't really talked much about Gray Evans. He's also been kind of up in the same boat as Debaro. Started back in the field, also drove his way up through the field. So I'm curious if he can also try to chase down the leaders, maybe throw a wrench into things.
The 24's night officially done, guys. He will finish in 21st place. And that is the end of the championship run. Was one of the most consistent drivers of the whole season. And unfortunately, with an accident at Homestead on lap number 39, will be the end of his hopes.
It's really unfortunate. I feel for him, too. He's still sitting in pit road, so I'm not sure if he's... Yeah, he's not in the car either, so I'm pretty sure he's at least hoping to at least finish the race, maybe, but I'm honestly not sure.
All right, so let's jump back up. Well, the lead between the top 2 and Debaro has stretched back out to 3 seconds again. Fitting, if you're in the 27th position of Debaro, are you going to try the undercut strategy, or are you going to go for the overcut here? What's the best way to gain time on the leaders?
Oh, I definitely think the undercut is valuable. You're saying the fall off was about 2.3 seconds, so you're going to gain that much on one cycle alone. So I think as soon as Debaro hits the magic number as far as fuel is concerned, I think he's going to make the turn down at the pit road immediately and try to get a leg up on these guys in front of him, especially Jeff Ward.
Yeah, you can really make this, you could probably do a 2-stop race here if you plan this out just right. If you can go at least, probably 48, 49 laps, then you're totally good. So I think we'll see drivers try to stretch it. No one's come to pit lane yet. I'm surprised we haven't seen anybody try it. But these guys are awful close to being able, if you pit right now, a 3-stop or a 2-stop race would take you lap 45, lap 90, 135, so you'd be 10 short. So you probably want to go another 4 or 5 laps.
It definitely makes sense for it to be lap 50, but meanwhile, this battle for 5th still going on. Yeah. Johnston is not giving up at all. He's definitely trying as hard as he wants to, but Yazik is just casually running that middle to top side lane. Johnston's still trying to get to the inside. gets to the inside. He gets to the door, but unfortunately, Yazik just has a little bit of that power off on the outside.
Yeah, these guys are having a spatial disagreement, I would say, right now. They definitely want for the same spot on the racetrack.
Yeah, Yazik just been riding the high line. He did this too when Bressi was behind him. Just took that high line away, and pretty much nothing the 24 can do. You can see Johnson also in the same boat. There's nothing he can do as Yazik gets a phenomenal run off the corner and behind Oop, and Yazik down pit road. He is.
Yep, and I thought he was going to throw a block, but he has hit that lap 46 mark, and you can definitely go a little bit longer than this. So maybe he's just trying to get the benefit of the undercut. So he will be the first driver to pit lane. I don't see anyone following him just yet, so the 55 will hit pit road for the first time tonight, but definitely not the last.
That's a great pit entry by Yazik. I thought he was going to overshoot it for a second, but he got to that 50 miles an hour just in time. So now this is...
Cohen. Wow, late dive from him.
And I don't think he wanted Ward to be able to pit with him, so Ward's going to have to stay out an extra lap. He'll lose time to the 21 on this sequence. But
and all the Disney Motorsports guys coming in, Cohen, Debaro, and Johnson.
Oh, Debaro making up a ton of ground on pit entry. He came flying in here, and he's down to pit road speed. Now, if you're in the championship fight, do not speed on pit lane and throw your championship hopes away. Now, for Jeff Ward, Finian, you kind of made your bed, now you got to lay in it, and he's going to probably just run this out to the end of the tank of fuel, and he's going to stay out this lap as well.
Yeah, so he's going to stretch it on fuel. Ooh, Cohen shot through his pit box.
Oh, no.
Oh, and he's still struggling to get in. It's going to... that's definitely a big give for the lead.
That's a huge mistake for the leader. He's led every lap so far. He will not be the leader at the end of this sequence.
Yeah, in fact, Debaro's going to pass him on pit road, so Debaro's going to come out of the pits. And depending on how long Ward stays out, it should make Debaro the leader.
So Ward coming to pit road this time through a late dive for him as well, and we're going to see where this all cycles out. Greg Evans currently has yet to make a pit stop, so he will inherit this lead. We have an update from one of the drivers, Finney, that we have about a 52 to 53 lap tank of fuel tonight, so you can easily do this race on two stops.
Sorry, Jeff Ward really just came into pit road very hot, but
did he make it?
He made it, but he slowed down in time, but he was a little bit sideways on entry. Thought he was going to spin out for a second, but he made it as far as I know, and at the moment doesn't have a speeding penalty.
Let's take a look. Whoa, that was really hot. Yeah, we'll see if he does get that penalty, but again, don't make your race bad if it's going well. And so far, Ward's done a great job. He could walk away with the lead of this thing, considering how the 21 mess up his sequence here. So let's just keep an eye on this 89 as he pits. He is in and out, so 14.4 second stop. No penalty for the 89 as they continue. Greg Evans down to pit lane as well. As Thomas George stays out an extra lap, you see the background, that's Derek Paulson in the 05 also hitting pit lane.
Yeah, Debaro now racing out of turn 2, and he sees Ward on the inside. He's easily going to take the lead of this race. So Ward going to fall in behind Debaro and actually kind of seeing where he slots in. Here comes also a Pelletier on the outside, but yep, looks like he's not going to get around. So just barely by about a second will Debaro clear Ward.
And Ward's going to have a couple lap fresher tires, but he needs to use up those tires now and get out in front of the 27 while he's got the goodness left in them. Meanwhile, where is that Nick Cohan machine? Were these guys running turn number 1? Nick Cohan is just now entering turn 1, so he lost a ton of ground to these drivers on that sequence. So a big hit for the driver who's led every single lap up until the pit stop sequence. Now just getting around. Oh, contact with him in the 70 here on the back straightaway. And he crowds him a little bit on the back straight. Those guys are no love lost between those two, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely using what there really wants to try to get himself back in this.
Here's a look from up above.
Oh, Greg Evans also just shot the gap.
Here's a look from up above as it came out of turn 2. Ooh, just a little bit of a slight check to the left, and the 21 and 70 got together.
Also, I didn't realize this through the sequence, Timothy Johnson lost connection.
Oh, man, that's a shame. The 28 losing internet there. He'll drop out for now, and we'll see if he returns.
Yeah, he's just joined back, so as soon as he loads back in, he'll get on track, but he's already 3 laps down and counting.
Scott Eckridge stays on the lead lap, or stays on the racetrack, rather, lap 53, so he could go 54 laps on his tank of fuel, which is a bit longer than we thought, provided he makes it all the way back around. And there's Thomas George, and I think he lost a little bit of ground over that sequence as well. Tyler Hensley in right behind him.
Ooh, battle for the lead, though, starting to hit up Ward, caught up to Debaro, and they're now starting to duke it out.
Yeah, this makes sense. The 89 should get back by the 27 because he's got fresher tires, but over the course of the run, I'm curious to see who is going to be quicker. We've seen Ward be in second for this entire race up to this point, but he was also being towed along by the 21. Now, without the leadership of Nick Cohan out there, we'll see how the 89 does. He clears the 27, and that will cycle out to eventually be the lead, and the 89 throws a block and defends on the back straight.
Yeah, I think he's trying to hold that inside lane. Definitely more valuable in the first 10 to 15 laps. Then it shifts to the outside lane. So we'll see now that Ward's got around. Can Debaro hang on and stick in behind the 89?
Riding on board the 27. He's playing this race. He's doing everything he needs to do to win this night. He's the winningest of the drivers that remain in the Fuel Finals. He's had 3 wins. That's the second most in the season. Only second Scott Eckhrich's 8, I believe, or 8 or 9. I think it's one of those 2 numbers, but a lot. I think it might have been 9. But Debaro, again, won 3 races, and he's setting this race up to be another one. We got a car in the grass. I think it's Greg Evans in the 46, Finian.
No, it's Gale Brooks.
Oh, Gale Brooks in the 17?
71.
71, that's right.
It was almost a 17, it's just especially with that DeWalt paint scheme. But yeah, the 71, he came in a little bit too hot on the access road, but
here's a look.
Nothing too major.
We talked about how difficult these access roads are. Just ran a bit wide and slid off and got back on. So, Finian, is that a penalty if you run wide there?
No, I don't believe it is. Shouldn't be.
It isn't.
Don Runkle Jr. leaving his pit box. Of course, the Mission 22 mission, for lack of a better term, is very near and dear to Don Runkle Jr.'s heart. And, of course, he was in the chase earlier, was one of the championship favorites. Of course, if you'd like to donate toward the Mission 22 cause, you can head to their website or send a text to that phone number on the rear bumper that I can't read right now. We'll get a look at it a little bit later in the night. Meanwhile, up for 3rd spot on the racetrack as the field has cycled back out. Nick Cohan passes Brian Yazek and gets himself back into 3rd, but he's lost 6 seconds to Debaro.
Which is kind of like what we had earlier, except a little bit more of a much larger gap between 2nd and 3rd place. So this is it's shaping up to be a pretty interesting race. I keep thinking everyone coming off the corner of turn 4 is about to scrape the wall in some form. So that was a little bit close, but Nick Cohan puts the 55 in his mirror and starts to make a move for 2nd place. But that's going to take a very long time if Cohan does have a little bit more momentum than Debaro.
All right, well, we're 58 laps into this 145-lap race. I think now is a good time for the final SimTV Sound Surge of the 2019 Fuel HostVenom Cup Series. We return now after that sound surge on lap number 62. We saw the 46 of Greg Evans get around the 21 of Nick Cohan and put himself into 3rd place, and maybe he can try to chase down Debaro, who's in 2nd place, to Jeff Ward, who continues to stretch the lead out here on lap 63 of 145.
Yeah, I'm curious also, given the state of things, so we see quick car, he was able to drive up to the field, and we saw him, he was kind of stuck in behind Yazik. Once he got clear, didn't really go anywhere, but here he is with clean air. Ward has been gapping him for quite a bit here, and I'm curious, how are these guys going to shape up in the later part of the run? Will Debaro be able to bounce back as this next run comes to end, or will this gap just continue to grow?
I guess we'll see here, but to working lap 63, I think the 89 has really launched himself in probably the quickest car of the night. He was your pick earlier this evening, and honestly, it's hard to disagree with you at this point. But I guess Debaro, if he gets on an equal strategy with that 89, that's how we're going to know if he's as good as the 89 of Jeff Ward. Again, Ward's only won. Has he won 2 races this season? I think he has won 2. One of those being recently. Was it last week? Or was it Debaro? I don't remember these things.
No, that was last week.
You'd think I would know these things, but...
Yeah, it was last week at Phoenix and then at Motegi.
Yes, so Motegi was his first win of the season, and, honestly, Finian, would it be ridiculous to compare Motegi to Homestead?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no.
To me, it's kind of got the same feel, where it's very wide, but there's multiple lines. I know it's very, very different, but there's similarities to be taken away from it. All right, working lap 65 of 145. Getting close to the halfway point in this race will be lap number 73. So Ward leads Debaro by 2 seconds. We have not had a caution yet tonight to speak of. We've had 6 lead changes. And we're watching the battle for 10th right now between John and Justin Rodden. Oh, car in the fence. Justin Rodden knocked the wall down in turn 4. How about the 16 of Jared Dixon? This is a Greg Biffle-esque 3M scheme, and boy, is that car gorgeous. I miss those cars.
Yeah, honestly, that car looks really nice on the modern bodies. Especially the Toyota one.
And you see, of course, Justin and John Rodden running side by side off into turn number 3. A good run for the 33 car this week.
Yeah, speaking of which, he is the last car on the lead lap. Only 11 cars on the lead laps as they're running, so that number's only going to get less and less as this night goes on. So if we do get a caution, a lot of people are going to be stuck a lap down.
Well, that's it. For a lot of these championship contenders, that might not be a bad thing, though, to put as many cars down as you can, because that gives you options. If you can pit and only lose 3 or 4 spots, maybe 5 or 6 spots by the time all this green flag running is over, then you've really put yourself in a position where you can really do whatever you want. You're not locked in because 30 cars are going to pit or not pit and stay out in front of you. So certainly something to think about. So out of the racetrack right now, the closest battle is that one for 10th, but there's also the battle for 16th with McQuistion and Gale Brooks. Remember, Brooks made a mistake coming to pit road, but don't think he got a penalty for it. Still running 17th right now.
Yeah, you don't get a penalty. Oh, sorry, Finian, go ahead.
No, you go.
All right, yeah, you definitely don't get a penalty for going wide. The only time you do get a penalty is if you don't use the access road altogether. So Gil Brooks is, he's more than fine for sure. But aside from having to pass Travis McQuiston and being lapped down, but at the moment, he's definitely off the hook for running wide there on the access road.
I'd say this is an uncharacteristic race for the 93 of McQuiston, Finian. Usually he's running inside the top 10. Started 14th tonight. He's dropped 2 spots to 16th. Just hasn't seemed to have the pace this evening.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate to see him. We saw him in quite a few races earlier in the season, having some really phenomenal pace up there. But yeah, this has been kind of struggling to get going in the right direction. Although he did show up, as we were starting the broadcast. He showed up pretty late, so I don't think he got a lot of practice here. But running fairly decent considering that.
Timothy Johnson in the 28. Remember, he lost connection earlier. He's back out of the racetrack 5 laps down, but we're not looking like we're going to have a whole lot of cautions tonight, so he'll probably be stuck there for the majority of the evening. What a shame. And just kind of wraps up his season with just such bad luck. He was really, really quick for most of the season, was leading the points at several points, just got unlucky in some of the Fuel Finals races, and especially at Rockingham where he got taken out and ended his championship hopes. Tyler Hensley and Derek Paulson, these guys are fighting for 8th place right now.
Yeah, Derek Paulson starting to show some good pace in the later part of this race. He's slowly climbing his way up as he tries to work on Hensley.
Started 15th tonight. He was really a factor to win a couple of the races at the beginning of the season. But for one reason or another, missed a lot of the most recent races and returns tonight inside the top 10 as we approach the halfway point. And right behind it, that is the...
Oh!
Ooh, he slid
That's
right
a little
up
bit
in-
close.
Yeah, that was a little bit close. Let's go back and take a look at the replay there as he slid up in front of the 44 on corner exit. Oh, man, that was even closer than before. I think it was with Greg Evans involved that we took a look at that. And right behind, that's the 62 of John Wilco running a new paint scheme this week. And also, we have to mention the 64, Stephen Herring, another driver that was much more consistently running at the beginning of the season, running 13th right now, the first driver one lap down, hoping for a caution to get that free pass.
Yeah, actually, also Don Ronkel too, with some pressure tires due to pitting late, he was able to unlap himself, so he's in 12th, just ahead of Jeff Ward.
And he just got into the fuel finals just by putting himself in the right place at the right time at Fontana, and he won a race and launched him into the finals. And really, he made it a lot farther in the finals than everyone thought he was going to, just by staying out of trouble. And that could have won him a championship here tonight, had things gone a little bit differently. But we all know that sometimes we'd rather be lucky than good, and Runkle didn't have any luck in the last couple weeks. Pelletier, oh, look at this battle here, Finney, with the 21. These guys are not on the lead lap with each other, but that's Nick Cohan, who's 4th on the racetrack right now, and the 93, McQuistion, who's going a lap down. Actually, yes, going a lap down to the 21. There's Gail Brooks and the 56 of Pelletier, all in a 4-car fight. 4 Toyotas here.
Yeah, 4 Toyotas, and only 3 of which are battling.
Cohan splitting up this fight.
Yeah, Cohen's just kind of running his own thing, trying to stay out of these guys' fight. Well, let them sort it out by themselves. Also, Yazik solely in behind the 21 2 car lengths back.
Past the halfway point here, lap 75 of 145, about 38 minutes of racing remaining if we go green to the end, and it's gone green for quite some time. Do you think it's too early to predict that we go caution-free, Finian?
No, I think honestly it's a fairly good guess. We had a complete fuel run, so it's not like these guys were really struggling, other than really just a lack of grip, struggling on these older tires where you really start to see some of the wrecks happen. So I think it's definitely possible these guys can go green all the way to the end, especially considering how spread out some of these guys are.
Yeah, big gaps between the lead lap runners at the moment, and only 11 drivers on the lead. Actually, make that 12 as Runkle is on the lead lap. And you see Jeff Ward, who now has a 2.9-second lead, and over the course of this run, he's just continued to extend it. I'd venture to say that he is definitely the one to beat tonight. It's a real shame that his paint scheme isn't showing up for me here, Finian. I don't know what he's running, but it's not working.
Yeah, it's not showing up on my end either, so I'm not sure what's going on with trading paints, but unfortunately not working.
Maybe it's not my fault. Do you have a paint scheme on the 89, Gary?
Double checking. No, I do not. So
Okay,
so he probably doesn't. Yeah, that's why I was thinking during practice. Maybe he just didn't put a paint scheme on. Just wanted to run blank.
Hey,
but
I mean,
I'm not sure.
Nothing against running blank cars. And certainly, if there's no sponsor interested in him now, they will be after he wins the championship as he's running.
Maybe that's why he's running it blank.
All right, Finian. So if you're Ward here, we're starting to close in on what may be our final stop of the night. You can make it to the end if you pit on lap number 90. Nope. About lap 105, if I did that math. No. 95.
No.
95.
95.
I can do math in my head. So that's another 15 laps or so. If you're Ward, are you going to be offensive from a defensive position, or are you going to be defensive from an offensive position?
I mean, honestly, really, at this point, really, the key of the game, just don't do anything stupid. Just don't try to play a game. You're in the lead. You have the advantage, especially on tires. I think don't try to outsmart your competitors. Just play a normal game, especially considering the lead he has over Debaro. If anything, he should undercut, but only by about a lap or two. Nothing too extreme.
Keeping an eye on that battle here. So the earliest you can make that pit stop is actually a little bit sooner than 95. It's about 92. So you can really go about 53 to 54 laps. We saw the 70 go 54. He's probably saved a little bit. Scott Eckridge, Finian, all the way back in 14th place. His pit stop sequence was 53 seconds, had a long stop. I think he got a pit road speeding penalty or something, because the stop was about 30 seconds long.
Yeah, if it was 30 seconds, then he definitely picked up something. So unfortunately, that put him further back in the pack, but still running in 14th considering. That's pretty impressive.
And you can see herring up the road. That would get him the first car a lap down. You see him just up the road there, and Eckrich is catching him just a little bit at a time, so maybe that 70 could get himself into the free pass position. And if there was a caution later in the night, he could get himself back on the lead lap and get back up there competing for a victory. Lap 81 of 145 now, right behind. I see Greg Evans, and he is all by himself right now. He's got 2.5 seconds up to Debaro and 5.4 back to Nick Cohan. He's kind of in no man's land at the moment.
Yeah, though he has been notably closing in. The gap was at a little over 7 seconds. It's now down to 5.8 seconds, 5.7. So Evans starting to reel in Anthony Debaro here. And especially over the course of this race, too, considering he got over about 70, 60 laps to go. Could definitely start to reel in Debaro, maybe even Jeff Ward.
3.2 between Ward and Debaro, and then again, it's a 2.5 second gap back to Evans, a 5.3 second back to Nick Cohan, but Brian Yazek is starting to reel in that 21 car. And this has been a great run tonight for the 55. Do I see some right side damage on that Ford Mustang, though? Oh, maybe I was just seeing things.
No, there's a little crinkle on the hood.
Ah, he's been in the wall a little bit tonight. Doesn't seem to be hurting him too bad. All right, so we're about 10 laps away from the pit window opening. And I'm really curious to see what Jeff Ward does. He's in a position of power here. I'd just say he stays out to the end of the fuel tank. He's got a big enough lead and enough laps left, because these runs are very long runs, 53 laps or 54 laps. So that gives you enough time to pull an overcut successfully, which we didn't see really work out so well at Motegi last night for the 3-Wide Race Kings Cup Series. So I say Ward just stays out to the end of his tank.
I definitely wouldn't doubt that. Just run that as much as you can and try to stretch it out to the end. Hope for the best. That's at this point, especially after the first pit stop, you know how long you can go for. So might as well just at least do the best to stretch it out to the end.
Brian Yazek continues to close on Nick Cohan for fourth. The gap between them is down to half a second. There's Gale Brooks in between them, but Brooks is going to get out of the fight here. Brooks has currently scored 16th, 1 lap down.
Yeah, and Cohen too. I mean, he could have been leading this race if he hadn't had that mishap down on pit road. Could easily been leading this over Jeff Ward still, or at least still within the fight with him. Yeah, now has been put back and forth. Potentially might be put back in 5th here if Yazek can get around him.
And behind Yazek, it's 2.2 seconds to find Thomas George. We haven't talked a whole lot about him tonight, Finian. Now, we thought coming into this race that he'd probably be on his heels coming into this event, because he's been good this season, but hasn't been quite as good as the other three heading into this last race. But with Bressi out, he is in the championship fight solidly, but he's got some work to do to get up to Ward and Debaro.
Yeah, I would say he's almost half a lap behind Jeff Ward right now. Jeff Ward on the back straightaway, so he's got a lot of time to make up on the track, especially the way this race has been going. I think really for George, he needs a caution at this point to get him back in the fight.
Jumping back to 4th place battle between Cohan and Yazek, it's closed even more. I think this 55 car is going to have this 4th spot from the 21. Take him a couple laps to get it done.
Yeah, I'm just amazed of how much Yazek's been able to close him. But again, we definitely see with his package too. Catching guys one thing, passing is another. Passing could really honestly take anywhere from 5 to 10 laps.
You know, it's interesting how you drive Homestead, Vinny, because the progressive banking out of turn 4, it's not so much out of turn 2, but the way it's laid out is that you feel like you're going to hit the wall, and you keep your foot in it, and at the last second, the banking rises and just saves you from knocking the fence down. Now, we're seeing drivers kind of creep up the racetrack as the night goes on. Look at the difference in line between the 21 and the 55, a whole lane and a half there. But look at the 21. See how he apexes early and just drives up off the corner, and the banking saves him. Look how close he gets to the wall. That's playing with fire there. We saw the 24 hit the fence earlier. As we see Tyler Hensley down to pit lane, he's in his box.
Yeah, we saw, I believe Hensley was the first. No, he was not the first. Who was the first guy to come down last time?
It was, I think, the Brian Yazek machine, was it not?
Oh, yeah, it was Yazek.
Yes, he's been out for 42 laps. He can go another 10, but he only needs to go another 5 or 4 to make it to the fuel window. This is a little bit long for the 44 of Hensley, don't you think, Finian? Oh, he's staying a long time in pit lane, though. I don't know if there's damage or if he had to go somewhere.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't recall him getting damage in this car, but yeah, so...
Looks like he is
Like,
all but a
he
night.
didn't speed on pit road, but he does have some right side damage.
Huh. Well, he spent a long time in pit lane, and he'll return back to the racetrack. Cohen and Yazek still separated by 0.2 of a second, so who is the next one to hit pit lane? We've seen Hensley start the sequence, but you can't quite make it to the end from here, I don't think. Now you can... next lap or two, you should be able to.
Yeah, it's going to be stretching. I think Hensley is going to have to save, otherwise he's going to have to make another trip down a pit road.
So who's going to be the first one to bite is the question. If you're Debaro fan, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because the 89 is just going to... He's in the advantageous position. He can just stay out and run his tank to the end. So it won't do the 27 any good to try to overcut him, because he won't be able to. But if you undercut, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So what do?
I mean, if anything, I mean, really best thing to do is, I would honestly say, just undercut and just try to stay out, hold him up, because I definitely think he's going to have a hard time chasing him from behind, as we've seen in this run.
I would almost suggest, so this might be a little bit crazy, I would almost suggest pitting right when the 89 does, so that you're on equal tires and equal strategy, because the 27 and the 89 have not been on equal strategy, with the exception of that first run where the 27 had to start deep in the field and use up his stuff to get to the front. So what I'm proposing here is that the 27 comes in with the 89, and all he has to bank on is that he's quicker than the 89 on pace alone, because he's not going to have a tire advantage, and if he undercuts him, he will have a disadvantage. The only way he could potentially have an advantage is if he's quicker and on the same strategy. It's risky, though. But as are all things.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially when it comes down to a championship, that's when you really need to, especially if you're on the outside looking in, you definitely want to throw some risk in it, so you can at least say you had a shot at it. So I definitely imagine the board's talking over with his teammates, trying to figure out the best course of action here.
Update on the 44, had some right front damage from earlier in the race, and needed to get it fixed because it was affecting the handling, so the 44 fixing some crash damage, and is now 19th, 2 laps down, but returned on the racetrack.
Yeah, also another thing too, Greg Evans really starting to close in down to 4.6, so he's been taking in a little bit of some bites here and there. Has definitely been catching up to Anthony Debaro, and I think will overtake him before this race is over at the rate they're going at.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at their laps since their pit stops here for Greg Evans. It's been 3 fewer laps than Debaro, and he's actually the most recently pitted car of the top 5. So he, in theory, should be the quickest, so the last time through, he was. So Greg Evans on the move forward.
Looks like Bressi back out on the track, or coming back out onto the track.
Yeah, 56 laps down, and probably down on power, but that car, of course, could have been a championship contender. Unfortunately, will not be the case tonight. You see Justin Rodden and Donald Uncle Jr., they're fighting for 10th. And here comes Jeff Ward to put them both a lap down.
He's got to be a little bit careful here. He's fighting through some lap traffic.
Oh, I'd wait just a little bit.
Yeah, I honestly would too.
I mean, he's got a very large gap, and yeah, with 27, Debaro's pitting, actually.
Oh, interesting. So Debaro is bailed on the idea of staying with the 89 and Jeff Ward. He comes to pit road to beat him there.
Oh,
Almost out.
He's definitely got a speeding penalty.
He might have.
He came in really hot. Here's another look from a different angle. Oh, that is fast, guys.
Yeah, he crossed the line.
60.
He crossed the line at 59, 58 miles an hour, and oh boy.
So we'll see if he gets a penalty for that. That would effectively take him out of the championship with just 50 laps to go.
Oh, wow.
Wow. He is
I'm amazed
lucky.
by that.
Apparently he slowed down that quickly.
It's all it takes, but Debaro will stay in the fight, and he'll return back to the racetrack now with less than 50 to go, and we'll see if he will be able to hang on and get himself a victory. Cohan to pit lane, Jeff Ward, well, he's probably going to stay out as long as he can go, which will be another 5 laps, but he's going to come in right now. And that effectively eliminates all the advantage that the 27 would have had.
Yeah, we'll see Jeff Ward if he makes a mistake.
So Ward to pit lane, he's in smoothly. Looks like a bit of a bobble there on entry. now it's all about hitting your marks. He might be quicker, but one little slip up in pit lane can take your championship away from you. I think Ward's been the quickest car all night. He's got to nail this perfectly to make sure that he makes it to the end of the race. And in his box smoothly, and he's in. Now, he can't speed coming out of pit lane because he's so close to the end of pit lane. Now, he could mess this up by slipping out of the access road here. And we'll right on board as he returns to the racetrack here with 46 laps to go.
Yeah, actually, here comes Debaro sailing through turn 1, so he's going to take the lead again. We saw this on the first run. Didn't really work out entirely for the 27 of Louis. He looks like he has a bigger lead than before.
It is a pretty big lead. Let's take a look at their pit stop times. It was only 0.2 of a second quicker for Debaro, but and 0.2 of a second quicker in the pit lane as well, but that's a pretty big advantage for the 27. Now it's the 89's job to get back to the 27. The difference this time is Debaro's tires are only 1 lap older. So this kind of flipped the race on its head. I didn't think that Debaro would make up that much ground, but remember his aggressive pit entry, guys? That was the difference.
Yeah, I think that definitely is where he gained a lot of time, so we'll see if Ward can chase it back down. He showed that he had the speed in that second run in between, but now Debaro has been given an advantage here. He can't afford to lose it.
Eckrich slow in turns 3 and 4. And I guess he was just letting on the 89 by.
Ooh, Greg Evans and McQuiston make contact in turn 4. Both were slowing up the racetrack.
Oh, no contact. They're dooring each other down the front straightaway. Here they go. Crash.
Oh, no.
Caution. The 46 up on his roof and the lid flipping down in turn number 1. Caution flies with 45 to go. And that changes everything because it's going to really mix up the strategy. Oh, my goodness, guys.
Yeah, what happened there is that Evans had just exited. That was just as Evans had exited pit road. For some reason, McQuiston slid up the racetrack. I don't know if he had a handling problem or not, but Evans was definitely not happy with that.
Yeah, here's another look at it as they come out of turn 4. The 93 slid up. He knocked the 46 into the fence, and then they drilled each other in the door here, and then after that, it was on.
Yeah, Evans showing his retaliation, doored him in the middle of the straightaway.
Wow. Big hit for the 46. The 93, of course, getting turned into the fence. Here's another look at it. And this is so much like last year, Finian, at Las Vegas. Remember that late race caution with 2 guys that disagreed with each other on the racetrack? Same situation here. Nick Cohan just made it through there as well. All right, so now, is pit road going to be a busy place? Yes, it is. Here come everybody. But this has put Woody Mahan as your leader now. And I already have Johnny Sauter jokes in the chat, so I appreciate that. But so 89 is in. So now it's down to the pit crews to sort this one out. Did the 27 come to pit lane? Yes, he did. He's in the background there.
And Thomas George going to be leading the field off of pit road. So how about that?
And did Thomas George try anything? No, he took 4 tires. All right, well, this mixed up a lot of different strategies here. We're going to jump to break real quick. We'll be right back to finish out this one as we have our first caution of the night. And we've had 9 lead changes so far. We'll be back for the restart here in just a moment. Stay with us for the finale of the Fuel HostVenom Cup Series. Welcome back to the season finale for the 2019 Fuel HostVenom Cup Series from Homestead-Miami Speedway. We've had our first caution of the night, a bunch of wave rounds making their way to the back of the field right now. If you're noticing our ticker, just give it a couple minutes to get itself recalibrated as I had to restart it. But we have about, under 45 laps to go here. The caution between Greg Evans and Travis McQuishan on the front straightaway as they had a spatial disagreement. And they have both since taken their cars to pit lane. As we come out of turn number 4, pace car is going to peel off. And the 9 of Thomas George, who is on his heels the whole race behind the 89 and the 27. He'll lead us back down to the green. And green flag flies, racing again here at Homestead.
Yeah, George gets off to a fantastic start, which he needs to, as he's been kind of given a second chance at life. He needed a caution to get himself back in this. He's leading the field, but he's got Debaro all over him.
Oh, 3 wide in the middle, and there's the 89 trying to go up the middle of the 33 and the 21, but Debaro's cleared himself up into second place, and now he goes for the lead on the back straightaway. The 89 of Jeff Ford has had control of this race the whole night. Could it all unravel here in the closing moments as the 70 of Eckridge puts pressure on them through here?
I think George has definitely got the advantage of the inside for now, but Debaro putting up a really solid fight on that outside lane. He's going to lead that lap through, but not just able to clear the 9 just yet. He is going into 1.
It's very, very close there for a moment, but he does clear him. The 27 of Debaro to the lead. And we're on lap 107 of 145. We're getting close to the end of this one, and the 89 still stuck in traffic.
Yeah, I imagine also that 21 is going to try to help out his team. He's going to give the 89 a hard time trying to get around him.
And he needs to get clear very, very quickly because that 27 is going to stretch out. And the 89 has not been into position this far back in the field since the start of the race. He started on pole and ran second for the entire first run, then led the entire second run. But for run number 3, he's stuck in 4th.
It's not too bad. He's been again in the entire top 3 for, as you mentioned, the majority of the race, as we're a little bit staggered 3 wide here between for about position 10, and quickly that sorts itself out to single file, well, for the most part, at least for Brian Yazik.
Yep. Yeah, it's Yazik, Norm Pelletier. Pelletier is not on the same lap as Yazik, but they were still fighting for position on the track nonetheless. We see Ward stuck behind Cohan now, and the lead has gone out to 0.3 of a second between Debaro and George, so 3 of our 4 Fuel Finals drivers inside the top 5 at the moment.
I'm just waiting for the 89 of Ward to make a move in some lane, but right now, actually, maybe trying to do that, or at least just following the lane, dives down to the inside. So at the moment, no trouble from the 21 of Cohan, but I'm pretty sure Cohan is going to suddenly give him a little bit of a hard time,
Contact
just like
there.
That squeeze, and that's not going to help him out.
Nope, the 21 got booted up the racetrack there. I think the 89 knows his time is running short with 35 to go at the line. He's moved himself back into 3rd place, but he is on a mission right now. The track has cooled down a little bit, and it means there's more grip to be had, but the 89 not waiting around for the 21 to get out of his own way.
Yeah, I think he knows that now it's crunch time there. In fact, they're not going to have any more pit stops, really, or don't need to have any more pit stops to the end here. It's a pretty much flat-out race to the end. Granted, we get another caution, so yeah, Ward trying to do everything he can to get back. Now he's going to worry about his 2 fellow competitors, and I imagine they're going to give him the hardest time of all.
You know, I don't think the 27 is super concerned about the 9 car, but he is going to be worried about that 89 who beat him on pace for the entire second run. But remember, the 89 had a tire advantage. We haven't seen the raw pace of the 89 versus the 27 yet tonight. And right now, the last time through at least, Debaro was the quickest on the racetrack.
And as they come across the line again, it looks like it's still going to be up to Debaro with the fastest car of them.
And just almost a 10th faster.
And that's not speed that's going to dissipate very quickly unless he beats up his stuff. But they still have a little ways to go. About 17 minutes of racing remaining for leader Debaro. And we have just under 35 to go. There's still a lot of time left in this race. And the 89 is closing on the 9 car. Maybe once he gets clear of George, he can get by and start setting his sights on the leader. How about Scott Eckridge, by the way? Racing on a broken foot. He's up to 6th. And that just goes to show if he was in this championship fight, he wouldn't even be the last of the drivers in it. That's just goes to show how good of a driver Eckridge is. And of course, won 9 races this season with a broken foot, was not able to compete last week at ISM Raceway, and was eliminated from the Fuel Finals, but running inside the top 10 at the closing laps of the final race of the season. For 2nd place, Ward becoming a nuisance in the mirror of the 9 of Thomas George.
Yeah, George starting to fall off the pace just a little bit here. Ward, as you're saying, has been reeling him in. I imagine how is Thomas George going to face this, and how is he going to try to defend here from Ward?
The entire top three is actually falling off the pace. They're all at 31.8 lap times, so I think Jeff Ward may finally have a little bit of momentum, especially a little bit of an advantage, I should say, with the slipstream as he goes down to the inside.
Ooh,
and Thomas George, he wants to squeeze him down, maybe, but I'm pretty sure George is saying, oh, you know what, maybe it's not worth it as of yet.
Debaro wants to see these guys fight. They've already lost about a tenth and a half doing this, but the 89 needs to get clear of this 9 car very quickly. And he didn't waste any time with Cohan, but he wasn't in the fuel finals, so I don't think he felt any shame in knocking him out of the way. But the 9 car, last week, it was demanded that these guys have a clean and fair fight. And it might be fair, but it might not be clean as they bump each other off into turn 3. The 89 giving a big shove to the 9 car. Maybe they work together.
Yeah, maybe they'll work together, maybe not. I think Ward definitely probably wants to be in the front of George. I think he feels like he can be better in the cleaner air.
They were slower that time through than the 27s. They're still losing time 6/10 behind the leader. But those 2 Camaros need to work to catch that Camry as he begins to pull away. It's 7.5 tenths of a second now with 30 laps to go.
That'd probably be the best idea, is just to work together, at least for the time being, have the driver in front of you get the slipstream and then tag on along that, and then that's when you can easily make the move. But right now, it's a little bit of a stalemate between all your top 3 drivers.
And again, the cream rises to the top here. The top 3 drivers are your 3 fuel finalists. The only driver not in the top 5 that is running in the fuel finals is Thomas Bressi, who crashed out on lap number 39. And will finish in 21st position tonight. Actually, moved his way one spot above teammate Tyler Hensley into 20th. All right, so the leader still out in front by 6/10 of a second. Last time through, pretty much dead even, running 32.2s.
This is interesting, seeing the lap times just fall off a tenth per lap. So somebody's going to have to save something for the time being, or else no one's going to have anything left, and it's going to stay like this.
And Gary brings up a good point, Finian. Can you afford to save anything? With the way this package is, you're on throttle so much more. There's so much more downforce. It's harder to carry speed. Is it more difficult or easier to save your car than it was in the past?
Yeah, I definitely think it's much more difficult to do it than you would be in the past. In the past, you could push the car a lot more beyond its boundary, but with this package, you're pretty much on the edge of grip every single lap, more so than before. So I think, yeah, very hard to save. Otherwise, if you try to save, you're just going to be way off pace.
They're staying about 6/10 behind Debaro now, but I worry that the 89 is following too much in the draft of the 9 through the corners and is wasting his tires just trying to stay tucked in behind. But he might be just using the draft to stay hooked up here as well. But last time through, they were, again, pretty much dead even, though 89 the slowest of the trio.
Yeah, I see Ward trying to run a lane below to get out of the air of the 9 car.
25 to go at the line. Debaro's lead still stuck at 7/10 of a second over George and Ward. Woody Mahan sits 4th after that caution kind of saved his night, put him inside the top 5. Nick Cohan's rebounded for 5th. Scott Eckrich on the broken foot started in 19th. He's up to 6th.
I think the 89 of Jeff Ward is starting to fall back just a little bit from that number 9, so like you mentioned, I think, yeah, he's hanging back a little bit too much. Just enough to stay in the slipstream in the draft, but not enough to really make an impact and catch up to the 27 of Debaro.
Maybe this is all a part of the plan for the 89. Maybe back off a little bit, let these guys race it out, let the 9 struggle to catch the 27, let the 27 try to run away. Maybe they'll burn out their stuff. I don't know if the 89's got the pace to get by the 9 and still have enough left to get the 27, so he's going to have to wait for them to burn out.
Ooh, Ward pushing up the hill. I think he's on it now. Here he comes with a charge.
And gearing up to make a pass on the 9 at Thomas George. He does not have any time to waste here. We have almost 20 laps to go. It's only 12 minutes of racing. It's not a whole lot. The 89's got to go now.
Yeah, he's definitely closed that gap to about Carly between himself, still running about that half a lane lower to get himself a little bit into that clean air. So running the almost exact same line, drifts up fully into the clean air. He's been doing this the past few laps, but that 9 comes right up in front. So Jeff Ward trying to figure out what he has to do to get just that little bit of an extra advantage over the 9.
See the 89 and 27 separated there on the track map as they work their way around the course. Closing in on 20 laps to go. The gap between the leaders, 0.7 of a second. That is another 10th back to Jeff Ward. But that time through, George and Ward were actually, George and Debaro ran exactly identical laps. Jeff Ward was a 100th quicker than both of them, but that's not enough. But look at the 89 now putting pressure on the 9 car.
Yeah, here he is. I think he's going to try to get a slipstream. He's going to eye a run, a dive into turn 3. No, he's going to still sit him behind the 9.
This is frustrating times for the 89. I think he knows he might be competitive if he could just get by this car. It's been so difficult to pass tonight. And you really can only do it with a lunge or a push.
A9 still trying, at the moment, just filling up the mirror of Thomas George for the time being. Just maybe trying to put a little bit of pressure on that 9, maybe make him mess up just a little bit.
He's got to run here.
Yep.
He's gonna use it to push the 9 car. Maybe try to get him to overdrive the corner, maybe help him to the back of the 27. Not sure what, but now you see the 9 overdrive the corner exit. That's going to bring the 89 right back into the mix. And does he pull out and make a pass here, Finn? I would have thought he would have tried, but with 20 laps to go, he's running out of time. He goes to the bottom, looks to the inside of the 9 car. He's going to have a bit of a side draft, but he's not going to be able to clear the 9 just yet. And tucks back in line. They're still losing a little bit of time.
And at this point, with them going side by side, this is something, again, that, like you mentioned before, Kyle, is that they want, Debaro wants to see these two battling side by side, and I think Jeff Ward is pretty much giving him that, because he probably rode along for those laps hoping that George could really get a little bit of a rub, maybe of an advantage, but I think Ward at this point is just tired of waiting, so he's deciding to make the move now rather than later.
Finian, does Jeff Ward have any patience left? And can he afford to be patient anymore?
Well, I don't think he's got a lot of patience left, and I don't think he could afford to. He's really starting to run out of time here, and he's making earnest attempts at getting around the 9 of George, but nothing's really working for him. So I think he's also kind of out of options as he's used up his tires.
Goes to the bottom of the racetrack again, trying to get a run, but there's just not as much banking down to the 9. Slips up. That gets them side by side. It's the best run the 89's had at it. You'd think the 9 would just let him go and maybe let the 89 take a run at the 27, but they're just continuing to drop back with 18 to go. The 89 just drives right on through. Did they make contact there, or was that just awful close?
Yeah, it looked awful close.
I think it was just close was all that was. The 9 may have backed off. Yeah, it was just really close there between those two drivers, between the door as well, so.
Okay, fight is on. 27, Debaro, 89, Ward, 9, Thomas George. Ward has finally gotten himself in front of the 9. He's got 17 laps to do something about that 27. But we've seen with the 9 car that once you get to a car, doesn't necessarily mean you can pass him. Watch that gap in the top left-hand side of your screen. The 27 now, I think, should be a little bit worried potentially.
He's already breaking away from the 9 as well from Ward. That's what Ward is doing, just like that, as soon as he got by him.
This time through at the line. A 32.887. Actually 9.20 for the 27, and a 32.886, so quicker for Jeff Ward.
Yeah, but we see, I think, honestly, Ward needs to get to Debaro by at least lap 140, so in about 10 laps. So he needs to get there with at least a little bit of time so you can have some time to work on Debaro. You can't just get to him and pass him immediately.
You see that gap beginning to drop now, 0.7 of a second, kind of fluctuating between 7 and 0.8 of a second, but it's the time out of the corners where I think the 89 is making up the ground.
Oh yeah, he took a 10th out of that lap alone.
Jeff Ward is coming for Debaro. Debaro has 3 wins, Jeff Ward has 2. Could the 89 tie it in the last race of the season and take home a championship?
Jeff Ward may have actually pulled a very good strategy by waiting behind Thomas George for those few laps. You may have, in a sense, maybe even if it was just a little bit, saved his tires just enough to get this advantage and a little bit more momentum and more speed, at least for the last time around after taking a 10th out. This time by it's about 0.05 of a second.
Yeah, actually, you saw all the ground that the 89 makes is through turns 1 and 2, and on the exit of turn 4. The 27 drives in much deeper into turns 3 and 4 and makes up a lot of ground on entry, but loses it all on exit. The gap is 0.6 of a second. It's the smallest it's been in 15 laps. The 89 is coming. Does he have enough time?
Well, he'll have enough time to do something. Whether it's clean or not, I think is going to be up for debate.
I don't think these guys have had issues with each other this year. The 27 has definitely had issues before with other drivers. I don't know if it's been with the 89, but I'm sure Finian drivers' memories are longer than mine.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I mean, you got a championship on the line. I'm sure these guys are... I'm sure at least Ward's willing to have some beef with a driver for a championship.
6.5 of a second. Again, it was about a 0.5 tenth last time through. This time through, is it any more than that? It's now dipped under 0.6 for the first time. And again, another 0.5 tenth taken out. So Ward is slowly chipping away at it.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ward did the same thing he did with Thomas George, using the bumper and pushing him into the corner, trying to make him overdrive that corner entry.
That's actually a really good strategy. We've seen that play out a bunch of times, especially at some of the larger racetracks where the tires wear out pretty quickly, like Fontana. People will launch each other off into the corners and just hope that they overdrive the entry, but now that gap continues to drop. Finian, do you think the 89's going to make it? He was your pick. Do you think he gets it done?
I think he can definitely make it to the back of Debaro. He's been closing at a significant rate every single lap. He's been doing his work there. Again, will he be able to pass him? It's going to be kind of tough. We've seen people really struggle with passing. I would say right now, at the moment, I think Debaro might have the advantage. But again, being behind someone, you have a lot of options, not a lot of them clean.
We can fit him in the same camera shot now. The 27 leads the 89 by 0.4 of a second. It is continuing to close. This time through, it's going to be 10 laps to go. It's 15 miles left in the 2019 Fuel HostVenom Cup Series season. After 18 races, it comes down to just 2 drivers. Thomas George is 2 seconds behind Jeff Ward. He's not going to be a factor unless these two get into each other. But with 10 to go, Debaro leads, and that gap has fallen below 0.4 of a second. The 89 will get there. It's a question of can he make the move.
At this point, I think he's in just, scrapes the wall a little bit there, but I think the 89 is just close enough to, well, maybe not. I'm not sure if he actually lost a little bit of momentum or not, but he should be close enough to get just a little bit of the draft there on the straightaways. In terms of lap times, well, that's still in favor of Jeff Ward, still a tenth faster. So yeah, riding behind the 9 actually did Jeff Ward a little bit of a favor.
It might have done that. You see the 89 tracking out a bit wider now, trying to carry some more speed, but the gap is definitely down to 3.5 tenths, and you will get a draft here, but you also start to get that aero push, and that will immediately slow down all the progress that you've made. So the 89 is going to have to search around a little bit. You see him about a half a lane higher, trying to get some air on the nose. 8 to go this time through.
Yeah, I think that's really where you see the best drivers being able to manage getting that draft while also getting out of the aero wash to make sure you don't lose a lot of momentum. Yep, under 0.3 of a second, he's there and he's coming.
He is stalking. It's the shark gray on the dorsal fin of the 89, and the Jaws music is playing.
It's about 3, maybe 3.5 or so car lengths, but definitely enough to know for sure. On corner entry, I see the 27 visibly pull that gap a little more, probably about 4 to 4.5, but
for all intents and purposes, that lead is essentially gone. It's going to be less than 1/10 of a second here in about a lap, and then it's just all on Jeff Ford to pick a better line than the 27. You see right here, he loses the nose when he gets behind the 27 and pushes up the racetrack.
He's probably trying to do the same thing that he did when he was behind the 9, just track out a little bit wider like you mentioned, Kyle, and just get a little bit more clean air on the exit.
But he enters in wide and tries to apex a little bit later and carry some more speed on the front straightaway. 6 laps to go. The gap is now 2.5 of a second. He is there. Does he have enough speed? And what does he try to do to get another line here? The 27 now trying to take his line away, running right in front of the 89 through turns 1 and 2. And you see Ward again push up the racetrack, but he's going to gain some more time in the draft on the back straight.
Yeah, I think that's really where he's starting to make up some time. You can see visually just how much he gains in on the back straightaway, but loses a bit on entry. I'm curious here, is Ward going to wait for the last few laps to make a run, or is he going to try immediately?
5 laps to go here at Homestead-Miami Speedway for the Fuel HostVenom Cup Series. Debaro leads, but Ward was the one that dominated the race. But who is it going to be?
Well, 2 laps ago, it was 0.04 of a second in difference of lap times. This time around, it was probably about 0.04 seconds as Jeff Ward hits the wall off turn 2.
He's just scraped it. I don't think it really hurt the car. It didn't damage it, but it was certainly a spark show. But he keeps that gap under a 0.2 of a second. But will he break and crack under the pressure of these final 4 laps? 4 laps to go. Debaro, Ward, George, 3 of your 4 fuel finalists. Debaro leads Ward by 0.1 of a second. Ward is struggling to find a way around. He's going to have to try a different line. But that sharp gray 89 car looking to find a way around that Coors Light silver of that leading Toyota Camry.
Yeah, he's really got to be careful. He can't afford to make another mistake like hitting the wall. He just loses. Really, not more so the damage is just losing that momentum. And I think we're going to start to see him just pick a line here and start to have a run.
3 laps to go now. Jeff Ward has stalled. His pace has come to a close. It's still quicker than the 27, but he just can't get any move done. We've seen how difficult it is to pass. The multi-lane nature of this racetrack kind of gone with these new the new NASCAR package for this season. And it's eliminating Ward's opportunities here, but they're going to have 2 laps to go. That's just 3 miles left for Ward to figure out how to get around.
Hey, do you think he's going to get physical?
He's got to get there first. He's stalled about 1.5 behind. He can't get to the bumper. I think he's going to have to make the 27 make a mistake. Maybe get out of the mirror on the back straight, take a deep lunge in turn 3, make him slide up the racetrack. But he's there even closer this time through.
Trying to get to the back bumper is Jeff Ward, but at the moment, there's really nothing that, well, actually, I shouldn't be saying that because he's still closing that gap. Definitely closer, about a car length now in the back straightaway.
The mirror is filled with the 89 car in the back of the 27's cockpit here. Coming back to the white flag, it's 1.5 miles left to the end of the season. Jeff Ward dominated this race, was put back on strategy. He has 4 corners left to get it done. White flag flies one more time in the 2019 Fuel HostVenom Cup Series season. Debaro goes high. Ward goes low through 1 and 2. He gets to the bumper. Does he use it? He slides up the racetrack. He has one more opportunity in 3 and 4.
No, he gets tight.
In the fence on the back straightaway. And that's it. Jeff Ward had one opportunity to make a pass and slid up the racetrack, pounded the wall out of turns 2, and it's not going to be enough. Anthony Debaro with 3 wins this season. He's going to make it 4 and go home with the biggest trophy of all, the championship trophy for the 2019 Fuel HostVenom Cup Series. Debaro wins it at Homestead.
Yep, Jeff Ward is going to be probably a little bit disappointed with that. He's going to come home in 2nd place. Thomas George, your championship runner, he's going to finish in 3rd. Nick Cohen is going to finish, Woody Mahan's going to finish in 4th. Great run for him. Nick Cohen's going to finish in 5th. Eckridge 6th. Roden 7th. Runkle 8th. Paulson 9th. And Yazik rounding out your top 10.
And the celebrations going on for the 27. At points in this season, we thought he might be out. A big penalty assessed right before the final started. Served a couple penalties throughout the season, but managed to come back and just put on an absolute show here in the closing laps of this one. More celebrations going on, teammates giving him the bumps and the pushes. And Debaro goes home a champion. 4 wins on the season. Started early and won over the entire course of the season. Didn't win them back to back to back. Spread them out over the course of the season, and he is going to go home not only a winner, but a champion for Dizzy Motorsports in that 27 Toyota Camry.
Yeah, I can imagine what are Jeff Ward's first words as soon as he gets in the booth. I'm sure it's going to be something about the package here. We saw him struggling behind Debaro, just trying to find something, couldn't get it done, but you definitely can't argue that he didn't give it his all. He gave it everything he could.
Yeah, he had one opportunity down in turns 1 and 2. I think had he managed not to slide up the racetrack, he might have had one more shot in turns 3 and 4, but he took all of his chips and slid them to one side of the table. And unfortunately, it wasn't enough. But Debaro, you can't say he didn't deserve this one, Finian. He worked hard all season. You see him nose into the wall there. Hopefully didn't need to pass inspection post-race, but he put on a show there, and Debaro, to his credit, they started side by side on that restart, and Debaro was the one that made it through the traffic and got out in front and had the advantage there, so he earned this one fair and square, but it was a spectacular battle between him and 89 of Jeff Ward. Here's a look at your race results. Jeff Ward half a second short. Maybe he took a lap or two too long to get by Thomas George, who finished 4.5 seconds back, and he'll finish 3rd in the point standings. Woody Mahan 4th, Nick Cohan 5th. Scott Eckridge with a broken foot finishes 6th. And of course, we have to talk about the 24 of Thomas Bressi, who ended up finishing the night all the way down, I believe, in 21st position after crashing out on lap 39. He could have been a contender, but took himself out early in the fight with no wins this season. It'll be a disappointing end of the season for that 24 car, but all the more effort to try to get another win next season. We're going to jump to break momentarily. We'll be right back with your champion and a few others. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sim TV and coverage of the final race of the 2019 A season for the Fuel HostVenom Cup Series. Here with your 2019 A champion, Anthony Debaro, driving for Dizzy Motorsports in the number 27 Coors Light Toyota Camry. First of all, Anthony, congratulations on a championship. Well earned, 4 victories throughout the season. You come home a champion after holding off a hard-charging Jeff Ford. How'd you get this one done tonight with that 89 on your tail?
I think a good restart there at the end, but thanks for the congratulations start. But a good restart. I got out front, and the clean air, with this new package is everything. And I knew Ward was running me down with the draft, and then as soon as he got in that little bubble, 0.2 back, you can't move. And I was just watching him. I was expecting him actually to go high into turn 1 and 2 on the and do a bonsai into 3, and he kind of went in the bottom and pushed up. So yeah, it was a good race for us. I think that caution saved us because we were stuck about 3 seconds back. I mean, through pit stops. I know I got ahead out of that cycle, and then the caution came right out, but I think he was going to run me down. It would have been a good race there at the end, too. So it's just a great season. I can't believe it happened.
In the closing laps there, we know that in the past, Homestead has been quite a multi-groove racetrack, more so top-oriented. But tonight it seemed like the line had moved down towards the center. Did you change your line when the 89 was coming to try to keep him in your aero wash there in those closing laps?
No, it was pretty much a one-line track the whole night. I mean, if you got to someone's outside, you could pinch them down so they lose their exit speed because they would have to lift. But it was that one lane up was where all the speed is. You couldn't make any speed up top.
So last season's defending champion, Greg Evans, came into this season with 9 victories, ended up only getting 1 and missing the final round of the Fuel Finals. What are you going to do next season to keep yourself in the fight and keep your winning ways going?
Well, I don't think we finished out of the top 5 the whole finals here. So I think I'm just going to try to keep that rolling and be a little more consistent to start the season, so we could get into the postseason with that bonus for points, so make our life a little easier if we have a mistake. But I just can't believe what just happened.
All right, well, Anthony Debaro still soaking in the victory for his Dizzy Motorsports team. Anthony, congratulations again. Go soak it in, go enjoy it with your teammates. Congratulations, and we'll see you next season again in that Toyota Camry.
Thank you.
All right, well, Anthony Debaro still soaking in the victory for his Dizzy Motorsports team. Anthony, congratulations again. Go soak it in, go enjoy it with your teammates. Congratulations, and we'll see you next season again in that Toyota Camry.
Thank you.
We'll talk next to Jeff Ward, who came up just short tonight, had an opportunity, took one lunge at him off into turns 1 and 2, and wasn't able to make it stick. Jeff, we know there's a lot of frustrations tonight. Probably had the quickest car of the night, led that entire second point of the race, but in the closing laps of this one, the caution came out. You had to restart, weren't able to get around the 9 of Thomas George for quite some time, ran down Debaro and couldn't quite get around him. Are you disappointed in tonight, or are you thrilled to have the race in the season that you did in that 89 car?
No, Cal, I'm disappointed. We had a 4-second lead there at one point. If that caution hadn't flew, I mean, that was going to be a wrap. We was a pretty good ways out there, and was going to reel Debaro in. He had 2 or 3 lap older tires, and the segment before that was able to really man and pass him and go up to a 3-second lead. So that's probably the way it was going to work out again. But yeah, that restart, the 9 killed us. I just he was pretty slow, and I couldn't. Every time I get under him, he'd get that run on the high side and be able to hold me off. So I just ate up all my tires. By the time I got to Anthony, I didn't have nothing left. So I feel like we had the car there. I could have drove in there and probably clipped his right rear. I kind of drove, and I wanted to nudge him, but I didn't quite get there. But I definitely could have bonsai'd and just wrecked him. But I don't drive like that, and I don't think he'd drive like that. But congrats to him on the title. It just didn't fall our way, and we'll come back, try to get them next season, I guess.
Jeff, to me, it seems like in the closing stages of this season, your team really picked up a lot of pace, and of course, just winning very recently. Do you think next season you'll get more victories? Were there missed opportunities this season, or do you have any regrets about the 2019 A season?
The second half of the season, I'm real happy with. We just found some speed and got comfortable there. And actually, I think it's once I won that first race at Twin Multigi, I was. I told myself I can do this and run with these guys. So the speed came there towards the second half of the season. We started staying out of the wrecks. We got in a lot of wrecks at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, that's a lot of momentum. This one here kind of hurts. That's a dagger there, knowing that we had probably the car to beat. So that's a tough one. We'll move on, though.
All right, well, still a second-place result in the race and in the championship for Jeff Ward. Needed to win the race and get a third victory to tie Debaro, but unfortunately, we'll walk out of this season with 2 victories and a second-place points finish. Jeff, congratulations on the top 3 result in the points. We'll see you next season. Have a good night.
All right, thanks, guys.
Next, we'll talk to third-place driver in the championship. That is the 9 driver of Thomas George. Thomas, that last restart, bit of chaos around you, and then a battle between the 89 of Jeff Ward for several laps. Came up a couple spots short. What'd you need to get yourself a championship tonight?
More horsepower and a better tire. I couldn't do anything tonight. This car is just, I'm just not that good with it. Apparently, it's just not. I'm not biggest fan of momentum racing. So car just never felt right from the get go. Felt tight and tighter and tighter. And like I said, I would have liked like 900 horsepower so we could dirt track this thing and use the throttle more. But I think the only other thing I could have hoped for was if the 89 and the 27 decided to start fighting there. I don't know what Jeff's upset with me about. I'm going for a championship too. I'm not going to just lay over. I fought him for 10 laps. I even gave him the bottom, and he wants to get pissed off with me. I'm just like, you know what? I let him go chase down the 27. He still got to his bumper, so that's not my fault. You had a chance. You couldn't get by on the 27. You had 5-10 laps there at the end, so I'm not going to just lay over.
A relatively successful season for sure in that number 9 car, in that 9 Camaro, third place in the points. But next season, looking for bigger and better things. Is there anything you can do different next season to potentially get your spot two spots higher in next season?
I don't know what track we're going to for the finale. If I even get that far next in the fall, I think it's Phoenix, so that don't bode well. I gotta figure out something with this throttle. That's the main thing, because there's just no response in it for me. This tapered spacer just takes away the throttle control, so it feels like even though you're getting on it, you're not getting enough horsepower out of the engine. It just that's more my style, is to use the throttle to turn the car, not to use the wheels. So I got to figure out a way to get this throttle at least kind of get going in there, and then we'll go from there. I mean, it's just step by step. That's all you can do. I mean, there's no one big thing. It's not like a F1 car where you throw in an upgrade and you get faster. So just little baby steps. We'll figure it out.
Thomas George, third in the points, third in the race, and he'll come home in third in the standings for 2019. Thomas, thanks for talking to us, and better luck next season. We'll see you out there.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for broadcasting.
Absolutely. All right, and last but certainly not least is going to be the driver of the number 24 of Thomas Bressi, who was eliminated on lap number 39 with a crash out of turn 4. Thomas certainly wanted a better night tonight, but we thought you were capable of competing for the championship. Wasn't the case tonight. Walk us through your season as a whole and what happened there on lap 39.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know how much of a contender I was going to be tonight. I knew those guys were going to be quick, and Anthony did a good job coming up through the field, and he did a good job there at the end. So congrats to him. But my goal, honestly, just for the season was just if I can make it to the Final Four, that's what I kind of consider a good season or a successful year. So yeah, not obviously I would have been like to not be demolished at the end of the race, but it is what it is. I was racing the 9 and he was coming up off the bottom, and I looked in the mirror and he was coming up real quick, and I thought I was going to get like left reared or something. And then, so I kind of moved a little to the right just because I was afraid I was going to get hit. I just barely got the wall and it bounced off and it went back in, and then that was it. So, I locked it down because I was trying to keep it out of the inside wall, but I knew the angle I was going at. I was going to hit it. I even downshifted to third and just mashed the throttle to see if I could get the nose to point away from it. It didn't. It was too far gone. But I wasn't really a big fan of the I mean, I've said it before, I don't really care for this low downforce package or the low horsepower high downforce package, especially here. I was not having fun. I don't know if it was because we were still using the day setup and it was like kind of an evening to night race, or if it just didn't really fit me. Or I thought I'd be a little bit better. I was actually a little bit more confident than I thought I'd be when the race started, but yeah, not really the way I was hoping that would end. I was kind of disappointed at points with the season, though. I mean, I know I got to the Final Four, but definitely I feel like a couple races slip away. But I was just kind of trying to, find some footing here. First time in a new league in a little while, so not bad for the season, but definitely got something, I guess, to build on moving forward.
Thomas Bressi, fourth in the point standings. No wins this season, but got close too many times to count. Thomas, thanks for talking to us, and better luck next season. We'll see you around.
See you guys.
All right, and that's going to do it for the interviews tonight. Finian, what a season we had this year. Definitely more competitive at the top than last year. Of course, this time the driver with 9 wins did not take home the championship trophy. One with 4 victories did. That was, of course, Debaro, but barely made it into the Fuel Finals because of the penalty he carried in. But, of course, circumstantial situations in that last race led to him being the champion. But thoughts and words after this 2019 A season?
Oh yeah, no, it's honestly been a fantastic season. I would say, I would argue, racing wise, better before the package change, but I guess that's always up to debate. But just in general, some great racing throughout the season. Quite a few different winners, albeit Scott Eckridge taking the majority of them, but just some fantastic racing up in the front. And if it wasn't Eckridge up in the front, definitely some other guy throwing his mix into things. But yeah, great race, great schedule in general that these guys are doing all over throughout the season. And yeah, just a great final race to cap off the season with a very close fight between Ward and Debaro.
Gary, thoughts after the final race here at Homestead? We saw a lot of competitive racing, but thoughts on the package and this final race of the season here for the Fuel HostVenom Cup Series?
Well, the package is, well, that's all I have to say on the package, to be honest. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not the best, but for Homestead here, seeing it at least under the lights and seeing how the package is under in the essentially 2 different conditions here, it was very, very interesting to see. So definitely looking forward to see if anything or if there's anything going to be different next year, or if we're going to try and maybe have some different tracks. Not sure, but it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens moving forward.
Follow all the off-season news via our Discord, which there should be a link in one of the most recent YouTube descriptions. I haven't updated recently, but you can check out Fuel on fuelrl.com. And that is going to wrap up the coverage for the 2019 A season here in the Fuel HostVenom Cup Series. My name is Kyle Heyer alongside Finian DeCuna and Gary Weaver from the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. Thank you very much for watching this entire season with us here, and we'll see you back here in just a couple months for the 2019 B season, and we'll start all over again. Anthony Debaro, the 2019 A season champion in the number 27 Dizzy Motorsports Coors Light Camry. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next season.